Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us to learn more about the how to improve pharmaceutical organizations by streamlining processes around FDA 21 CFR Part 11. Just as some introductions, I'm Chris Chapman. I'm with SolidCAD, Industry Account Manager. I'll be doing the background portion of the slides, and we've got, from a technical perspective, from SolidCAD, Daniel Isaac has joined us, as well as Jason Kraus from Accruent. So we look forward to sharing some information over the next half hour. So today's agenda, we'll be running through some background both on a SolidCAD and Accruent, so you have a bit of a feel with where we're coming from. We'll get right into defining the challenge around FDA 21 CFR Part 11, go a little bit through that, provide you with the overview of what the solution for that would look like, and then get into some specifics and ultimately a demo to show you exactly how you might resolve that challenge. SolidCAD is a CanCell company. It's been operating now for a little over 25 years. We have offices in 8 provinces across Canada, and we offer services in both French and English. We're in partners in Canada with Accruent Software, providing both the software services and training to ensure successful projects in this space. Some of you may know us as the largest Autodesk partner in Canada, and we have great relationships with both of these vendors. SolidCAD falls under the CanCell umbrella, which gives us a unique opportunity to offer you access to a number of different solutions from some of our sister companies as well as our own. It covers off design software, point cloud creation, design collaboration, engineering information management, GIS solutions, large-scale printing, and maintenance operational solutions. Currently, we work with Accruent on both their Meridian engineering information solution, as well as their maintenance connection solution to offer help you manage facilities and operations. Both are leaders in their space with significant customer bases across the globe. So Accruent's been in business about the same time frame, since the mid-90s. They have over 10,000 customers globally in these solutions, over 350,000 users in over 150 countries. SolidCAD is part of their extensive global partner network, and Accruent itself is part of a larger organization, Fortive. So let's focus a bit now on why we're here, solving some pharmaceutical challenges. So these 6 areas are all of importance to most manufacturing companies, specifically in the pharmaceutical organization. Health and safety, or safety and quality being a primary area which you want to have great solution for. What we do there is we enable getting the right document aligned with the right asset, which ensures you gain control over your procedures. And that would impact procedures specific to the pharmaceutical area, such as lockout, tagout, and confined space procedures. Workflow automation, we allow you to find and maintain information in minutes versus hours in a lot of companies' current processes by leveraging digital workflows, mobile access, and real-time feedback loops. For a first look at compliance, just from a high level, we can help reduce the cost of managing regulations, assure regulators see that your house is in order. Inspections become shorter, also benefit with reduced costs of audits and safety inspections. Around certification, that's really making sure your employees are all well trained and certified on using it. A lot of companies work with tribal knowledge, which is, everyone kind of knows what they're doing and it's been done that way and they continue to do it. Group consensus sometimes, though, isn't maybe the best way to do it. If you have experienced people these days, are they getting closer to retirement? And what you've been doing for years, is it really the proper methodology? So defining that in an engineering information system provides a single source of truth. It transforms your data to the digital realm. It could be a great part of a digital transformation initiative. And it really turns your data into a corporate asset that everyone can leverage. Just for a couple of examples, there was one pharmaceutical organization that didn't have engineering information management in place. So they made a couple of judgment calls, which ended up costing them. So on one, what they did is they used the wrong soldering rod material when repairing some equipment. I didn't realize it quickly, so what they ended up doing was they ended up having a repeated failure. So they might have been in a 1 or 2 day turnaround initially to fix that, but it ended up costing them 7 days of shutdown time. And you know, in that same organization, they come up with a second example by, you know, they had at one point put an improper filter. So these are really issues that are, you know, evolved from not having the correct information at the right time when you need to make these repairs. I'm sure a lot of the people on the call understand what that costs to be down per day at their facility, but this organization, they put a price tag on it of about $750,000 per day loss. So for 7 days, you know, you're over $5 million due to these issues. If you could just save 10% of that by having the right information in people's hands when they need it, that would be tremendous savings. As a secondary example, specifically to audits, and we're aware of one large global pharmaceutical organization that failed an audit and was ended up being fined $8 million. So that's a real number. And I haven't worked for pharmaceutical organizations, but I have worked in other organizations that have been audited. So first thing you always know is they come in, the auditors come in, what are they looking for? They're looking for your paperwork and your documentation. So having that in order is key to getting past those audits and getting the proper grade that you're expecting on it. Specific to FDA 21, creating electronic documents, signing them, adding an audit trail is a bit of a challenge, frankly. Ensuring and providing the signatures themselves are real and went through the expected process is not simple. Then you can manage the lifespan of the documents, any secondary copies that might get created through the lifespan of that document. You have to tie that in with other systems such as your facilities management solutions. Just keep all that aligned and verified is quite complex and requires defined processes, workflows, and audit trails. So that's really, at a high level, what we're trying to help you with today to get through this compliance challenge. So let's set some expectations around what a solution might look like. So Meridian is, you know, here's some existing customers for the solution that on the asset management and engineering info management for life sciences, pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical devices, as all four can be a great fit. As you can see by the logos, it's Meridian's well received within the industry, and they're very well-known customers on that list. Now let's take a look at some of the high-level functionality that's offered to meet the requirement. Real-time access to documents from a single source of truth ensures that everyone works from the same playbook within the different teams such as R&D, clinical research, operations, and quality as some examples. Enabling the various departments within your organization to work together by reviewing information, providing real-time feedback, and providing streamlined approval process improvements company-wide increases efficiency. Company-defined workflows that are specific to your requirements that are done in a digital format saves significant time. Tracking progress, mobilizing approvals, and providing an audit trail all remove cost from these procedures. Even without COVID-19 that we're currently going through, enabling mobile access to documents related to assets and allowing approval processes to be done well out of the office will speed up approvals and ensure everyone has access to the organizational single source of truth. Relating documents to assets and asset tagging with barcodes speeds up operations and ensures the right documents are always within reach. The ability to provide feedback through red lines and comments ensures any discrepancies between real life and documentation they're addressed immediately. All right, so let's take a look at the specific functionality to enable FDA 21 CFR Part 11 compliance. And to do that, I'm going to hand off the floor to Daniel.
Thanks much, Chris. I really want to focus now at this point to show you exactly the ways Meridian can meet the challenges of FDA 21 compliance. And we're going to explore the pieces that really kind of fit into that puzzle. So the first one, a powerful tool with Meridian, is the audit trail. It gives you quite a bit of functionality on the different tracking of activities, but we'll dig into that in a bit. The second piece is, of course, is authenticated login. You need secure authenticated login for all your users. We also have automated PDF rendering of native documents. Electronic signature is an extremely important part of meeting the Part 11 compliance. Email notifications are a great addition, not required for compliance, but really streamline your day-to-day workflow. And finally, print stamping, which is a great way to kind of manage your hard copies for documentations that are going to be looked at for audit situations. To focus on the audit trail itself, Meridian gives you full capability to look at all the different parts of any actions done on a particular document. So you'll understand who opened the file, when they opened the file, what changes were made, and you have control over the retention to ensure that all this information is retained throughout potential audit periods. Authenticated logins, they support industry standard IDPs or identity providers. So you get full compatibility with different tool sets to give you a fully secure environment for all your important documents. SAML, I believe, is fully supported, as well as Okta. And this really ensures security and full traceability via the logs. Automatic PDF rendering is a key benefit, I believe, at this point. What happens is with PDF rendering, you get the ability to create renditions of native documents. And with that, you have the ability to make comments and changes. And the big piece of the puzzle here is actually the ability to add watermarks. A few examples of watermarks that will meet the FDA compliance would be things like stamping an e-signature on a separate layer away from the native document. So you actually see a PDF with a second layer of an electronic signature, which I'll show you. Another piece is the expiry date of a document. So if you're anticipating an expiry date for a particular document, you can attach that via a separate layer, and people will know right away that that document is not appropriate because it's past its specified expiry. Here's an example of the electronic signature being added to an actual rendition of a document. So you'll know when and who signed it, and that's completely separate from the native. With electronic signatures, just to continue our discussion about that, you have the ability to completely lock down any change management via an electronic signature, so you know who signed off on it at what point, and that's fully stored within the application. Basically, all change management and review functions can leverage e-signatures to complete these processes via custom workflows. Another piece is email notifications. This is not required for FDA 21 compliance, but with this functionality, you'll have the ability to streamline your day-to-day work. So if a document goes into a review situation, you can actually automatically send an email to an entity to actually have it checked over. And really, it kind of enables collaboration beyond reaching out manually to people. So it really smooths day-to-day operations. And this can be utilized in any part of a workflow. So whether it be a review being kicked off, or if comments are added, or moving something to a release stage, you can send automatic notifications to the different stakeholders of a project. With hard copies, print stamping gives you the ability to add watermarks to the different technical documents you're working with. Some of the examples of watermarks you can add are some of the expiry we were talking about with the renditions. You can also apply to hard copies, as well as you can see electronic signatures being added to hard copies. So you'll have no issue knowing that this is the correct document or this is not an expired document at this point. And you'll know if the state of the document as well. And it's all automated through the process of Meridian. Over
Great.
to you, Chris.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. At this time, we've defined the challenges and we have some context around the solutions. So I'd like to hand it over to Jason Krause to run us through a demo so you can get to see the solution in action. It's all yours, Jason.
Gentlemen, thank you. Really appreciate your time, everyone, today, and I really appreciate your attention. Please let me know if we have any questions as we go through this as well. But what I'd like to do with a little bit of time today is walk you through a little bit of an example of what your systems might look like or processes might look like in a validated sort of view. The first thing that we talked about as we went through the capabilities of Meridian and as they apply to situations is I'm looking at our Explorer application, which is really purpose-built for your users that are consuming documentation. And they have different ways that they can find it. One of the screenshots there was a view that was more of a search capability with fields that you would search on things. The view that I'm looking at here is called our navigation view, which lets us drill down into a hierarchical structure to find the documents that we're looking for, to select them, to have a thumbnail of the document, and then other tabs here with other metadata inside of them. And so if you had a document, say for instance, this one that has gone through a process where it's been signatured through that e-signature process, when the user is looking at the file and going to consume it to work at it, there's a couple of things that are artifacts of that process to help you understand. So the first thing that you see is that the document on the rendition is e-signed appropriately with the proper reason, the users, the date, and the time, in this case expressed as GMT, for when the document was e-signed and processed. We see a couple other artifacts of this process, including the print stamp here on the top of it. And as Daniel mentioned as well, we can have a print stamp that generates when I print the document using this material up here that would put a business rule expiry date on that physical copy that may walk out of the system through that process. Say in 48 hours, this document's no longer valid, so that you can ensure that your team has to then very quickly and easily come back, find the document, ensure that it hasn't been updated, and if they need to, print it again. Okay, that's a key feature within the solution where we're going to enable your team to very easily find the document. Again, we found this document by drilling into a structure, but we could find it a number of different ways, including looking at it from the tags that it may be related to. Here, these are different asset tags that we've tied in and brought in from a CMMS, like again, Accruent's own maintenance connection, or SAP or Maximo or Infor, other CMMS systems that may be in place in your environment already. Okay, so with that process, we've taken a look at the document. We could see other pieces of information here that are crucial to, or could be crucial to operations processes, including this orange triangle here highlighting that we have a project copy of our document. So we can then navigate to that tab and see the project copies here in front of us, including any outdated or issued ones that have been completed as part of the previous versions of the system. So that would be also under the revisions, where we could see the history of the document. Again, and this is just available for those users that are consuming your documents. This isn't where we're editing or even engaging really with the native file. We're viewing the rendition and redlining and interacting with the rendition over the top of that process. Okay. Let's pivot now from the Explorer side here on this web page to the Power side, Power Web in this instance, which is where your team that is really charged with maintaining your documents is going to live. This is your engineers, your document controllers, your project managers, people that are reviewing and checking on files and going through those processes. Okay, so within this process, we could see that this is the same document in the same sort of structure spot as we were looking at on the Explorer side, and we can of course view the document here, and it's going to now show us the same rendition that we saw on the other side. One nice thing that I should call out as well is Meridian has a native viewer built into it that I don't need to install anything in order to utilize. So again, everyone is viewing the rendition and interacting with the same exact file, which makes things very, very simple for everyone to understand what's going on in the process. Okay, but let's take a look at some of these other files. In this file, I have down here in a project copy that is, I can hop down into my project checkout in my project copy, and we can start looking at where this document is in the workflow. So as we mentioned as well, one of the key components of a 21 CFR Part 11 compatible system is going to be workflow documentation, workflow compatibility, and an understanding of the processes and roles, security around all those pieces, and then having the system processes documented and then validated as we go into that. A big piece of that validation is going to reference the workflow. And so in this instance, this is the workflow that I have available to me in this system that I'm at. If you are utilizing an on-prem installation of Meridian, this workflow would be configured to match your workflow, and you'll get a visual map similar to what you're looking at here. Now, the ultimate goal of this change that I'm going through in this file is to get it e-signed. And so what I'm going to need to do now, I've got a document here in review, and we're going to move it through and submit it for approval, and then approve and e-sign as we go through to complete this cycle of change in the workflow. And it's very simple and easy for me to do that. I'm going to start here first by submitting for approval. As we can see on my map and see as my menu option up here, that's the next step that I need to go through. We'll submit this document for approval. It's by default assigned to me, and I can enter comments associated with the change. And move it into the next stage of the workflow process. So the document will now, when we move it over and process that, we're going to see our white puck here move from review to approved because I've now submitted it for approval. And then the next stage of that, we're also going to re-render the document. Again, we view and interact with the rendition of the system. So the system is just presenting a fresh visualization for everybody to be associated with. As Daniel mentioned as well, with email notifications, since this is assigned to me, I did receive an email as well notifying me that you have a document assigned to you inside of this state. Okay, and now from here, the next thing that I will be able to do is I will be able to come in and start interacting with it to complete that e-signature approval. From here, I could select a document, and I could also do this with a batch of documents as well. And we're going to go in and move it to the next stage of our workflow, approve and e-sign. Now, again, I can do this with a batch of documents where I want to interact with them. With the e-signature, though, I'm going to have to enter my password on every one that I e-sign. And that is to ensure that we meet requirements required by 21 CFR part of that. Okay, so I'm going to put a reason that's for engineering in this case. And those reasons can be specified by your team as to what the appropriate reasons are. Now, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to attest to who I am. It knows my username, but I'm going to have to enter my password. And now it's going to go through the process to e-sign that document. Okay. And when it's done with that and finishes generating the rendition, what we'll have is a document with our e-signature across the top of the rendition, ready for consumption and ready for use within your team. And this one is still in our project. Once we issue and release it back as a master revision, this would be the version that's visible to the wider population through that Explore page that I was looking at when we started this discussion. So let's just let this finish rendering. There we go, done. And we'll pivot back in, oh, it's still rendering, excuse me. As soon as that's done, I will pivot back in and show you all the rendition there for us to view. So, team, thank you for your time. That is the goal of my session and my time with you today. What questions do you have?
Thanks, Jason. We've got a couple of questions here. One is, you talk mostly about engineering information. Can I also manage controlled SOPs and have retention policies?
Absolutely, we can do that. We can manage those documents and we can e-sign those same documents. Now, usually, instead of being on the top of the document, we usually append that as a signature page at the end of the document when we render those. But one of the properties that you see here is a periodic review, where we can define a review cycle for your organization, where every 36 months this file must be reviewed, and we would generate a task. Your team would manage it, review the document, and reset for the next review cycle, or begin the process to destroy that document if it's met its retention.
Great, and I think we've got time for one more. Validation is expensive. Can I have one solution that supports multiple plants, so I only need to validate once? Absolutely. In fact, if you look at this structure here that I'm looking at, I have
region, and then plant, and then discipline and classification in my structure. I can have as many of these as I need in one system with one set of validations, one scope of rules across it, and you can validate this one time in use by many, especially with our like site cache infrastructures or other things to ensure that performance meets requirements in a distributed environment.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate all that input. Daniel, thank you as well. We'll wrap it up at this time. I'll be following up with everyone just to get your feedback, and we will be sharing the content as well through a video that'll be available over the next day or so. So look forward to chatting with everyone, and have a great day. Thanks for spending some time with us.